You're addicted to dopamine and it's killing your discipline. You might not even realize it, but from the moment you wake up, your brain is being hijacked. The first thing most people do in the morning is check their phone. Notifications, messages, likes, comments, tiny hits of dopamine flooding your brain before you've even brushed your teeth. That small rush feels harmless, but it's rewiring your mind to crave instant gratification. You've conditioned yourself to expect quick rewards, and because of that, real discipline, the kind that builds success, starts to feel impossible. Think about it. Every time you open Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, you're teaching your brain that pleasure should come instantly and effortlessly. You don't have to earn it, you just scroll, you don't have to think, you just consume, but that same wiring makes it painfully hard to sit down and focus on deep work, to write, to read, to build something meaningful. Because those things don't give you instant dopamine, they demand patience, focus, and discomfort, and your brain, used to constant stimulation, resists it. You might tell yourself, I'm just relaxing, or I'll work later, but deep down, you know what's happening. You're escaping. You're running from boredom, and here's the harsh truth. Boredom is the very thing that forges discipline. When you can't sit alone without reaching for your phone, you've lost control. You're no longer the master of your mind, you're a slave to impulses. Discipline dies when pleasure becomes your default. That's why you struggle to stick to habits. You start going to the gym, but after a week, it's too hard. You try to meditate, but you quit after 2 days because it's boring. You set goals, but as soon as progress slows, you lose interest. The moment it stops being instantly rewarding, your brain taps out. It's not because you're lazy, it's because your dopamine levels are completely out of balance. This addiction to stimulation has silently destroyed your ability to delay gratification, the most powerful trait of all successful people. They understand that true satisfaction comes from earning the reward, not chasing the shortcut. But most people can't even go 5 minutes without a dopamine hit. They're overstimulated, overworked, and underfocused. They're chasing comfort at the cost of growth. Imagine what would happen if you broke that cycle. If you stopped checking your phone every few minutes, if you replaced scrolling with silence, if you sat through the discomfort instead of running from it, your mind would slowly start to heal, your focus would return. Work that once felt boring would begin to feel meaningful again. You'd start to enjoy progress not because it's fast, but because it's real. That's what a dopamine detox does. It resets your brain back to factory settings. It teaches you to find pleasure in discipline, not distraction. And once that shift happens, everything changes. You stop chasing cheap highs and start building lasting success. Because the truth is, the people who win in life aren't the most talented, they're the ones who can stay focused when everyone else is distracted. When you cut out the noise, the scrolling, the constant notifications, the endless stream of entertainment, something incredible starts to happen inside your mind. You begin to feel uncomfortable at first. Restless, anxious even. That's your brain craving the dopamine it's been overdosing on for years. But if you can sit with that discomfort long enough, if you resist the urge to reach for your phone or turn on Netflix, you start to notice a shift. The fog begins to clear, your mind starts to calm down, your focus sharpens. That's the beginning of the rewiring process, and it's the most powerful transformation you can experience. See, your brain is designed to reward you for behaviors that help you survive and grow, like working hard, solving problems, or creating something meaningful. But modern life has hacked that system. Instead of earning dopamine through meaningful effort, you can get it instantly from junk food, video games, social media, or endless scrolling. Your brain doesn't know the difference between real achievement and digital stimulation. So every time you take the easy hit, you're training your brain to crave comfort instead of challenge, and over time, that kills your drive. A dopamine detox reverses that damage. It's not some gimmick or monk challenge. It's literally the process of taking back control over your reward system. When you remove constant stimulation, your brain's baseline dopamine levels drop back to normal. That means you start to feel pleasure again from small, real-world actions: finishing a task, going to the gym, reading a book, working on your goals. Things that once felt boring start to feel good again, because your brain finally learns to appreciate effort-based rewards over instant gratification. At first, it's brutal. You'll feel bored out of your mind. You'll realize how addicted you actually were. You'll sit there, reaching for your phone without even thinking, just to fill the silence. That's how deep the programming runs. But if you can push through that phase, if you can sit in boredom long enough, you unlock a kind of mental power that most people never experience. Your attention span grows, you start to think deeply again. You can work for hours without needing a distraction. You begin to enjoy the grind because your brain is finally rewarding the right things. This is the cheat code that separates the focused few from the distracted many. When you detox from cheap dopamine, you're not just freeing up time, you're reclaiming mental energy. You stop wasting brain power on meaningless stimulation and start channeling it into creation. You start reading more, thinking more, building more. And as your attention sharpens, your confidence grows. You feel in control again of your habits, your focus, your direction. You become the kind of person who actually finishes what they start. That's the hidden gift of a dopamine detox. It doesn't just remove bad habits, it replaces them with clarity and purpose. You start waking up with intention instead of impulse. You find joy in simple, productive things. You realize that life doesn't need to be constantly exciting to be fulfilling. In fact, the peace you feel from being in control of your own mind is far more powerful than any short-term pleasure. Over time, your brain begins to crave discipline. It starts to want the challenge. You'll notice it when you feel more drawn to building your business, training at the gym, learning a skill not because someone's forcing you, but because it feels right. You've retrained your brain to associate happiness with progress, not distraction. And once you reach that point, you've unlocked real power, not the fake kind that comes from motivation or hype, but the kind that comes from mastery over yourself. You're no longer a prisoner of your impulses. You're the architect of your focus, the driver of your destiny. That's what dopamine detox really does. It gives you your mind back. And in a world where everyone's attention is for sale, having control of your own is the ultimate form of power. Boredom, it's the one thing everyone runs from, yet it's the exact place where greatness is born. We live in a world where being bored feels wrong, like something's missing, something's broken. The second you feel that tiny sense of emptiness, your hand automatically reaches for your phone. You open Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, anything to fill the silence. You can't even stand still in an elevator without looking at a screen. But here's the harsh truth. That constant need for stimulation is the reason most people will never reach their full potential. Because boredom isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. When you strip away distractions and let yourself sit in silence, something magical happens. Your mind starts to think again. Not shallow, surface-level thoughts like what's trending online or what to post next, but deep, powerful thoughts. Ideas, reflections, creativity, the kind of thinking that changes your life and your direction, but you can't reach that level if you're constantly feeding your brain noise. Great ideas don't come from chaos, they come from stillness. And boredom is the doorway to that stillness. Think about the greatest innovators, artists, and entrepreneurs in history. None of them created their best work while distracted, they created it in solitude. In moments when the world was quiet and their minds had space to wander. When boredom hits, most people panic, but the successful ones lean in. They know that discomfort is the price of clarity. They let their minds stretch and explore. That's where breakthroughs come from. When you stop constantly feeding your brain quick dopamine, it starts craving real fulfillment. It starts working harder to find meaning, and that's where genius lives. Boredom also builds discipline, something no one likes to talk about because it's not glamorous. Sitting in silence feels pointless at first. You'll fidget, you'll want to check your phone, your brain will scream for distraction. But every time you resist that urge, you're training your mind, you're building mental toughness, you're teaching yourself to focus, to stay present, to control your impulses. That's what separates high performers from the rest. They don't need constant excitement to stay consistent. They can show up even when it's not fun, even when nothing's happening. That's the real secret to success. When you become comfortable with boredom, you gain an advantage over everyone else. Because most people quit when things get dull. They give up on their goals the moment progress slows down, but success is slow. Building a business, mastering a skill, transforming your life, none of it happens in a week. It's a long, repetitive, often boring process. The people who win are the ones who keep going when others stop. They don't chase constant stimulation, they chase growth. They've learned to find peace in the process, not just excitement in the results. And here's the paradox: once you embrace boredom, life actually becomes more meaningful. You start to notice things you used to ignore. You appreciate moments of quiet. Your creativity skyrockets because your brain finally has room to breathe. You start generating ideas, setting clearer goals, and connecting deeply with your purpose. The silence that used to scare you becomes your source of power, so if you want to achieve greatness, stop running from boredom. Don't fill every empty second with noise. Let yourself be still. Let your mind wander. Allow discomfort to exist without trying to escape it, because that's where transformation begins, not in chaos, but in calm. When you master boredom, you master focus. When you master focus, you master consistency. And when you master consistency, you unlock greatness. Most people will keep chasing stimulation for the rest of their lives, never realizing that the real magic happens when you stop chasing and simply sit with yourself. Boredom is not the absence of growth, it's the birthplace of it. The question is, can you sit still long enough to find out?